Bill, great to see you, and under such well, dour atmosphere as was generated on Wall Street. This was a significant day. To see GameStop, to see AMC, their stocks, for crying out loud, tripling without earnings, in fact, with losses. What is going on here?
Well, the GameStop kind of trading phenomenon has caught the attention of almost every trader today. Every screen was glued on what's happening to GameStop prices. And in a way, this is a story about the democratization of capitalism. You've got a bunch of kids in chat rooms on Reddit and Discord talking about how it is that they could take down market professionals. And getting rid of short positions that is chasing after imbalances caused by huge shorts, such as what we had in GameStop, 140% of float. That's huge. And that kind of market imbalance is something that's ripe for taking down. And market professionals have done that over time. That's what short squeezes are all about. But this time it's done by a bunch of kids. And in a way, hooray for the kids, because they had enough wherewithal to sniff out where the opportunities were, and they made use of that opportunity. So in some ways, that's a good thing. But Lou, this is also a distraction, because the market collapse in general should have been anticipated when President Biden said yesterday, we're going to be revising the trajectory of vaccines from 100 million people down to 100 million shots. Well, what does that mean? It means that the lockdowns are going to continue. And what do we know about lockdowns? In March, when the lockdowns came in, the market crashed. The volatility went up to a historic high of 82 on the VIX. And right now, the market has returned a bit, but the rolling lockdowns has caused people to become more wary about whether or not the expansion is going to continue, especially with rolling lockdowns that are growing in intensity.
There's also a possibility, certainly among some investors, to be listening to at least the reporting on President Biden's statements, if not the president himself, as he is basically agreeing with the president, Donald Trump, that he disagreed with and contradicted on the very issue, and now looks, well, he doesn't look solid in his reasoning, I'll put it that way. There's got to be some tremulous response there in witnessing a president who is unsure and often not squared up on issues. And this is only the first week.
Well, Lou, as you know, the fastest way to whip down markets and to crash a market is to confound their expectations. When the markets are expecting Biden to come and say 100 million people will be vaccinated in the first 100 days, and we're going to do more, and then to suddenly change that around and say, no, it's going to be prolonged. Right. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next couple of months. That is very unnerving, and that's, of course, what's going to happen is that's going to crash the markets. And I'm really afraid that if the lockdowns continue, the actual recovery is going to be stymied. And the story you just heard about California, even if they pass the stimulus bill, the money's not going to go to the right people. The money's going to go to people who can speculate in the stock market, as opposed to targeting the benefits to those who are unemployed and those in the hospitality and travel sectors who are being laid off and whose businesses are being closed.
It is. The government is becoming a little casual here. Money that, for example, with Julie Su, in California, wanting now to be Deputy Labor Secretary for President Biden, $31 billion could provide a lot of relief to a lot of people who desperately need it right now, and instead giving it over to fraud because of sloppy management, and I'm being kind as I say that. Let me turn to the amount of money we lost today, that in excess of $1 trillion in market cap. But within that, a sterling performance from Tesla, from Facebook, reporting after hours, of course, and Apple, $100 billion quarter, $111 billion quarter, in point of fact. Apple looks like a juggernaut that it's plowed through the pandemic, a recession of considerable note. Your thoughts about all the bulwarks of the market and what their role will be in the weeks and months ahead?
Well, those two examples show you that the economic core of our country, the economy itself, is really very strong and is really firing on all cylinders. But yet, the dampening effect from these market expectations being fizzled away, you can see that the aftermarket trading in Tesla is down, despite the fact that they're beating, despite the fact that Apple's beating, the aftermarket trading is down. So market investor expectations are things that are very important. And President Trump knew how to build up these expectations to sustain the market going forward. It seems as though President Biden, in his desire to have an equitable economy, an equitable distribution of wealth, is signaling exactly the wrong set of expectations for market investors, because there's more uncertainty about whether or not the solid foundation of this economy is going to be able to translate into profits for the rest of the companies.
Yeah. Class warfare has never been a sound strategy for any president, and certainly not one in his first week, who is reversing many of his promises made on the campaign trail. Bill Lee, great to see you. Thanks for being with us.